Good afternoon, everybody. Erev Pesach. We first of all want to thank David and Ruth Marriott for sponsoring the Dvar Torah. It's in honor and to celebrate David and Ruth's 10th Aliyah anniversary. This whole period is one which is, amongst other things, connected to Aliyah. Actually, David and Ruth came on Aliyah on Tanit Esther, and Esther, we know that the Purim miracle was a catalyst in afterwards people going back to Eretz Yisrael in the construction of the second temple. And closer to home, closer to this time, the Jewish people crossed over the Jordan on the 10th of Nisan. That 10th of Nisan during that year was a Shabbat. And according to some opinions, that's why we call it Shabbat HaGadol, because there was a great miracle of the splitting of the Jordan River, enabling the Jewish people to cross over into Eretz Yisrael. So we want to wish, it's also David's birthday. We want to wish you both and all your family a Mazal Tov, and that you should have a continued success and nachas and creativity in your aliyah over here in Eretz Yisrael. And Bezat Hashem, more and more of your family will join you over here in Baaretz. Mazel Tov to both of you. There's a lot of connections, a connection within connection in this week's Parasha and also Pesach. In this week's Parasha, let's start off with the HaGadol. The first of the questions of our questions of the Haggadah, in the Haggadah, the Manishtana is Shebachol ha'leilot anu ochlim chametz u'matzah, ha'layla hazeh kolo matzah. On all nights we eat chametz and matzah, and on the night of Pesach we only eat matzah. And Barbanel in his Haggadah, he asked the following questions: Is that true? Is that true that on every single night we eat chametz and matzah? I mean, on every single night we basically eat chametz. So what does it mean on every single night we eat chametz and matzah, and tonight only matzah? It's really patently not correct. So the Barbanel explains that as follows: that the person asking the question, he's saying like this. On every single, there is in Parsha Tzav, in this week's Parasha, there is a korban which is called a thanksgiving offering. It's a korban todah, in which when a person was saved, there's a miracle that happened to him. He wants to give gratitude and thank to Hashem. So what he does is he brings a korban, and that korban has to be accompanied by two sets of breads, one group of matzah and one group of chametz. And therefore, the Barbanel says that what the person's asking is, how come that whenever we bring a thanksgiving offering, it's always accompanied with chametz and matzah, and on the night of the Seder, when we bring a korban pesach, so true, there's a chametz, but actually, if there's any thanksgiving offering par excellence, that is the korban pesach, which we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for saving us and taking us out of Egypt. So how come over here there's no chametz and matzah? That's actually the point of the question. So this is the first connection between Pesach and between our parasha. That in our parasha speaks about a thanksgiving offering, which, as I said, is always accompanied with matzah and chametz. And the person asking that on the Thanksgiving offering, which is the Korban Pesach on matzah, only has matzah. So that's the point of the question. What's the answer to this? What is the answer? Correct, you can't have matzah, but you can't have chametz. But how are we going to express the Thanksgiving in whichever, obviously the Torah wants it to be accompanied with chametz, which we'll explain in a moment. But why? How are we going to now, what's the solution to this? The solution to this is a comment of the Ramban. The Nachmanides says that we look at Pesach and Shavuot as like one unit. In fact, he calls the period between Pesach and between Shavuot like one long extended Chol HaMoed. And since that on Shavuot, when we do bring a sacrifice, a communal sacrifice to celebrate Shavuot, that's the only time that we accompany that korban with chametz. So according to the Ramban, it comes out, we asked, why don't we eat tonight chametz and matzah? And the answer is that the answer actually, which is not given in the Haggadah, is, but that's the answer, yes, now we're eating only the matzah. And when it comes to Shavuot, which is the last part of the Chag of Pesach, because everything in between is just like one long Chol Hamoed, that's when we're going to eat the chametz. What is it about the Korban Todah that requires, unlike any other Korban, any other sacrifice accompanied by a meal offering, has to be matzah, excepting one exception, one on Shavuot, that's communal, but all other offerings have to be accompanied with a meal offering of matzah. So the Rabban Nachmanides in our Parsha, he says like this. We won't get into Kabbalah, because I don't understand Kabbalah, but there's one part that is understandable to all of us. He says that the chametz represents the attribute of justice, and the matzah represents the attribute of mercy. We can understand that, the last part. But matzah is associated with redemption, with Hashem coming and swiftly taking us out of Egypt, that we didn't even have time to bake a proper piece of bread with chametz, which with raz. But we had to eat matzah. So that's simple for us to understand without getting into Kabbalah, why chametz justice. But for sure, matzah represents the attribute of Hashem's mercy. So why actually, when we bring a korban todah to thank Hashem for having delivered us out of troubles, etc., why do we bring chametz and matzah according to the Ramban? And this is a very deep answer. The deep answer is that that usually, and what happens many times is that when we look back at our lives, we see that the difficult periods, they were actually a springboard for something better that happened afterwards. And that's why when a person thanks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's thanking him not only for the deliverance from the bad, but that Hashem put us in the bad, and in the bed, from within the bed, we grew and we went further. Something that if we wouldn't have experienced somehow a drop, somehow some sort of a failure, or some sort of challenge, maybe we wouldn't have actually advanced like we could have. And that's why the Gemara says that in the end of days, the only korban that will remain with the Jewish people is the Korban Todah. And the reason is because the Korban Todah, the people will look at it. The Korbanot are associated with sin, that there won't be, because there won't be sin. Because at the time of Mashiach, then the people will be on a much higher level, so there won't be sin. But what Korban will remain? The Korban of thanksgiving. Because when the people look back, they'll see that everything that happened for the bad, actually in the end, it was for the good, that we could only grow stronger. Right? So this is the reason. So on Pesach we ask, but today Hashem, we ask, why is it that we're giving a thanksgiving only on the matzah, and only on that Hashem delivered? And what about that Hashem put us into Mitzrayim, and on that we grew? So on that we're answering according to the Yesod of the Ramban, because on Shavuot, when the final redemption took place, when we got the Torah, when we grew in these 7 weeks, then we can look back and we can see how everything that happened was for the good. And that's why on Shavuot we bring the matzah as well. That everyone should have a Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Kasher v'Sameach.